ready, man? Party people in the place to be. It's about that time for us to. Yeah.
What's up, chiropractors? This is Dr. Silveri, your guide up the mountain to $1 million practice. If you're looking for the roadmap to grow your practice fast, then keep on listening. This is the Path to $1 Million podcast, where I chat with today's most successful practicing chiropractors. And remember, if you want to get there faster, visit getmemorenewpatients.com to find out more about Leverage Media, the most comprehensive digital marketing agency for chiropractors on the planet.
What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media. Welcome to another episode of Path to $1 Million podcast, chiropractic's only daily podcast. I'm here with my new friend, Dr. Josiah Fitzsimmons. Josiah, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Josiah Fitzsimmons. Have an office, Vero Chiropractic, in West Des Moines, Iowa. Married to wonderful wife, Megan. I have a son, 4-year-old Brecken. Big Green Bay Packers fan as far as hobbies go. Played football in college and then graduated from Palmer College of Chiropractic just a couple years ago.
Where what position did you play in college?
I was defensive tackle, so I used to be about 280.
You're a big dude. Like, how tall are you?
6'4".
6'4", 6'4", 280. Like, what are you right now?
230.
Yeah, I bet you were like a house in college. Yeah. Who's your favorite Packers of all time?
Probably Aaron Rodgers.
Was Brett Favre your favorite Packer before Aaron Rodgers?
How I got going with the Packers and how I became a big fan of them. And when my son, right after he was born, I put him on the Packers season ticket waiting list. So hopefully he'll get it when he's a grandpa is my hope. So
nice. Did you swear off of Brett Favre forever when he signed with the Vikings?
Definitely wasn't too happy about that, but he didn't really win anything there, so that made me happy.
Fair enough. Yeah, he went there to sabotage, like the whole when he threw the interception to lose the game in the playoffs. Maybe that was for the Packers, you know.
Yeah, all my in-laws are all Vikings fans, so it's fun that they have their nice empty trophy case, and I make fun of them for that. So
nice. So we met recently in San Diego. I believe you joined, right? UAC?
Yep.
Yeah. So we are both officially in a mastermind together. And when I was introduced to you, we started talking, and I was blown away by the level of success you've had so early in practice. So you said you started in, was it July of 2017?
Yep.
So we're doing this interview in November of 19. So it's been basically like 2.5 years. And you started from scratch, like you didn't buy an existing clinic, correct?
Correct.
And I wish I had a drum roll, but tell me how many visits a week you're seeing right now.
Yeah. So right now we're averaging about 1,200 on the books, show up rate. We're seeing 1,050 or so a week.
Unbelievable. I don't know if I know anybody that has 1,200 visits a week, but I definitely don't know anyone that's done it in 2.5 years. So I'm super excited because with this podcast and with the content that I've been putting out, I have been interacting a lot more with people that are early on in their career or are still students. So when we launched the podcast, we launched it with the Gary V interview, and there's a lot of young doctors that follow Gary's content. And so, I'm 41 years old. I've been in practice 12 years. So I tend to just be friends with people that are 41 years old that have been in practice for 12 years. So it's been really cool to be able to have these conversations with these younger doctors. And when I met you, I was super excited because I'm like, you must have been preparing in school for this level of success. You don't just accidentally do it. And then once you were in there, the growth obviously has been explosive. You said that you collected $1 million in your first year, and you're going to do $2 million this year. So I think it's going to be exciting for the listeners to be able, even guys like me could learn something from that level of volume. But first I want to go back to when you were in school. What were the things that you were doing? What were the 3 most important things that you did in school that allowed you to prepare for the level of success that you've had?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably the biggest thing was just right away when I got to chiropractic school, I thought chiropractic was chiropractic. I didn't know about different techniques. And so that was honestly kind of blew my mind. And as I kind of talk about playing football in college, I was just super, super competitive. And so I was like, all right, which one's the best technique? And everyone, in chiropractic is like, well, this is my favorite one, whatever resonates with you. And I was kind of like, bull crap on that, to be honest, at that time. And I was just like, there's got to be one that's better than the other ones. There's got to be the best way to run a practice to adjust people and so forth like that. So I really dove into like the clubs on campus, and I was averaging, like 7 to 10 clubs a week that I was going to. They only have 2 club times at Palmer officially, but then most clubs have, extra times in the morning, over lunch. I was skipping classes because I really learned early on, like, what's actually applicable from school. Like, one of the speakers that came on campus, he talked about applicability, and he said, you need to figure out in every single class what's actually applicable later in life after you open running a practice. And so I was like, I need to draw out from the curriculum what's actually applicable, and then everything else I need to get outside of the classroom. And so I went to every club I could possibly to try and become the best chiropractor possible. And from my previous background, I really knew I wanted to open my own office, be an entrepreneur. And so at that same time, I started learning about these successful doctors. And so I started going to offices all around the country. By the time I graduated chiropractic school, I'd been to over 50 chiropractic offices all around the country.
Wow. So, well, I mean, you've obviously figured it out for all of us. What was the best? What was the best technique?
Yeah. I mean, I practice MC2 and TRT. And so what I realized was, with chiropractic, in my opinion, there's lots of things you can do with the muscles and bones, but if you can find the best way to really directly adjust the nervous system with a tonal technique, that's really what I found, by shadowing all those offices that I felt was getting the best results that were longest lasting. And so that's how I settled on MC2 and TRT. I'm actually teaching at an MC2 seminar out in San Diego again next month.
Very nice. So for all the chiropractors that are listening, you can stop with the nonsense that you're doing and do these, right?
Right.
All right. So figuring out, what's going to work best for you is a good one. You like without a technique, like you can have all the marketing strategies in the world. You can be the best communicator in the world, but if you don't know how to get anybody better, you're not getting to 1,200 visits a week, I would imagine.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So the other thing that I really love is, man, to go to 50 offices in the span of your college or your chiropractic career or chiropractic college career. Like, were they local? Were they all over the place? Like, were you like flying because you like heard this guy was great? Like, what were you doing there?
Yeah. Pretty much the different speakers would come on campus, and all of them, I was always, the first person going down at the end of the talk, asking them questions. Hey, can I come out to your office? And I started going to these doctors' offices. Originally, it was, guys that were pretty local. But then I started really getting involved with learning how to help them market. So I started learning how to screen. And so that was really my ticket to traveling around the country, is I became a really great asset for those doctors. And once one of them brought me out, one doctor, I think I was, third trimester maybe at the time, brought me all the way out to Washington. And I made 99 appointments in 2 days at a screening event for him. I scheduled 99 people all by myself. He had one little staff member that was like her first week at working at the office, and she helped pull people in a little bit, and I just closed them, took deposits. And after that, every friend of his, and I kind of blew up for doctors started hearing about me that did screenings. And so I just started getting flown pretty much every weekend for 2 straight years. A doctor paid me to fly to their clinic. And I brought my wife with me for a lot of them so she could learn the in-office. We'd stay Monday, or we'd, try and get there earlier so we could see the in-office, learn that. By the time my son was a year old, he'd been on 18 airplane rides, all paid for by other doctors.
So there wasn't like one more person at that Washington screening that you could have gotten to triple digits. Like you just allowed yourself to stop at 99. Like, did you have some like cap that you're like, I'm not going to do 100? Like
I didn't even know the number, honestly. I didn't even know the number. And the craziest thing, it like, you're thinking like this was a super busy event. It was literally not that busy. I mean, I bet 600 to 700 people came. It was a home show. 600 to 700 people came to it. And like literally every single person I stopped signed up, and then they tallied it up at the end. And they're like, you signed up 99 people for appointments.
That would have been the most disappointed I've ever been at a 99 or a 90 plus appointment screening. I would have gone and like signed up the guy that was begging for change outside or something. We're gonna get you in. No deposit for you. You're fine. Okay, so you were flying around the country as some kind of hired gun in Tri-3. So that sounds impressive. So who had the best office out of all of the ones that you visited?
That's a great question. You know, I learned a lot from a lot of offices. I tried to piece them all together. Probably the one I took the most from was a doctor named Dr. Jerry Shea out in San Francisco. He's still one of my really good friends. I just think he's done a great job of staying ahead of marketing. He really has a great entrepreneurial mind, and he was probably the one that I really took the most advice from while I was in school, and then really pieced, you know, everything from all the other different offices and, you know, the different clubs that I was involved with was a really huge asset, you know, to my understanding and foundation, you know, to knowing how to communicate and educate people on what we do as chiropractors. And, you know, if you can tell the story of what we do in a concise, quick manner and really give people a possibility of what their life could be like, you know, who's not going to pay $20, $40 deposit to potentially change their life? I mean, when you put it that way, it's like a no-brainer. I mean, to do that. And that's why we have such success, you know, we do with our office now with, you know, the volume that we're seeing and the number of new patients we're getting every month, because we can really clearly and concisely convey that message. And it's such a powerful message.
Yeah. So you were traveling the country, you were seeing other offices, you were doing the technique stuff in school. Anything on mindset, like any books that you were reading? Like if there's a student out there that maybe is like, I don't know, like getting close to graduation, like try 7, try 8, and they, you know, they haven't been doing a whole lot. Like what are some things in terms of mindset that really got you? I mean, it seems like you're naturally that way, but I would imagine that you probably worked on it.
Yeah, definitely. Number one book I always recommend for mindset is a book called Rhinoceros Success. It's kind of written at like a 3rd grade reading level, but it's one of my top 5 favorite books for sure. I've bought in it for, you know, numerous people because it's really helps you lay out goals. What do you want to accomplish in life? Note cards, you put them on the mirror, you read them every day, you read them out loud, you yell them, you know, you really get pumped up about the possibility in future. And it talks about surrounding yourself with the right people. And I think, you know, that's definitely, you know, a big part of success. From an office standpoint, number one book I recommend from learning how to give the best quality of service to your practice members is a book called Selling the Invisible. That's definitely one of my favorite top 3 books. And then Influence by Robert Cialdini is the top book I recommend from a sales aspect and really knowing, you know, what people want and, you know, how to properly convey your message.
Nice. All right. So you are you from that town? You're in Des Moines, right?
Yep. I actually kind of was born in Florida, traveled all around the country. My dad was a tennis pro, lived in 7 states by 3rd grade. But that's where we landed in Ames, Iowa. That's where my parents actually met, went to Iowa State University together. So I grew up in Ames, which is about 45 minutes north of Des Moines, where we're at now.
Nice. And you just picked it because it was like the big city near you?
Great question. I was like super open to really going anywhere. My wife and I met in high school, so high school sweethearts, and both our family were in Ames. And so we really looked around the country for a little while, you know, where we wanted to go. And that's really the great thing I always tell students is if you want to open an office, don't feel like you have to pick a location and you're set there because you're opening a business and you can never leave. You know, we really came to the conclusion that, you know, if we don't like it here, we could leave, you know, after X number of years and open up somewhere else. But we just thought with just having a new child at the time that we really want to be close to family, and we couldn't be more thrilled with our decision at this point. But, you know, I think that anybody could be successful in any town. I always tell students all the time, pick where you want to live, where you think you're going to enjoy your life the most, whether your business is successful or not. Don't base it on that. And you can be successful if you have the right mindset and, you know, different tools, of course.
You know, I get questions like that all the time. Someone just sent me an email asking me that. Like, does it matter? Like, does the density of chiropractors matter? I'm like, we're seeing 10% of the population. So there's plenty of people out there, no matter how many chiropractors are in any city, you can be successful. There's always someone who's crushing it in every city, no matter how busy it is. You just have to, mimic the habits of those successful people. So you said that where would you live, or where would you practice if not for Des Moines? What would be your next favorite location?
Probably some place with nice weather year round.
Don't come to Chicago. It's the worst. All right, so you said you were entrepreneurial, growing up. Have you always been that way?
No, I really never, honestly, I had no idea what, entrepreneur and what was. Like I said, my dad was a tennis pro growing up, and my mom, worked different odds and end jobs, and really had no entrepreneurial background actually whatsoever. What really got me to that point was I was in school, I was pre-med, exercise science major, and I thought, medical doctors were the pinnacle, of the health industry at the time. And I didn't know what I wanted to do really, but I knew I wanted to do something with health. And I thought athletes at the time really stood out to me just from my personal background. And I had this family friend, and she was a chiropractor. Her husband was a physical therapist. And my mom's like, give them a call, see what they think. And I'm talking to her, and she's telling me chiropractic, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever, you're a chiropractor, And then her husband gets on the phone. He's this big bodybuilder named Craig. And he's like, let me talk to Josiah. And he goes, hey, I'm a PT, I go to work when they tell me, I take off work when I'm allowed to. I clock in, I clock out. He goes, that's my job. He goes, my wife, she goes to work when she wants to. She looks forward to work. She loves her work. Chiropractic is her lifestyle. He goes, go have a great life. Go be a chiropractor. That's what he told me. And so I started shadowing some local chiros where I was at in college. And that's really what I found out was man, I could really have control of the path of my life this way. And I could really control my own destiny and my family in a much more way that I would want to control it versus someone dictating my life. And that's really how I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug while I was in college, but no really entrepreneurial experiences whatsoever until I opened my business.
Well, you've done pretty well. That's a good tagline for a chiropractic. What was it? Have a great life, be a chiropractor.
Yeah, exactly.
I think some chiropractors would dispute that, but but I do like that you can control your life. All right, so you open the practice, you pick Des Moines, you're like, all right, I'm ready to do it. Is your wife in the practice as well? She's not a chiropractor, correct?
Nope, she's not a chiropractor, but Megan's my boss. I mean, she runs this place. She's the glue. She's really the glue of the office. I'm, as we've kind of gone down the path of we really, realized our roles better and played our strengths. And that's something that's really been a key to success, which I could talk about. But I'm definitely the visionary, at this point, and she's the integrator, holds everything together, systems, processes, procedures that have allowed us to grow at this pace and have, really high quality of care at the same time.
You like Gino Wickman's stuff?
I've actually just been getting into that. And so we really have great systems and procedures at this point, but really looking to, improve our structure, put some accountability in place is kind of our next phase of growth to help us scale, I think.
Nice. All right. So let's give some value to the listeners. So you're at zero. You went to $1 million in the first year. So what were the biggest things that you were doing? How did you, what kind of volume of new patients were you bringing in? Because there's no referrals when you have zero patients. So how were you bringing in new patients from the get-go?
Yep. So graduated February 2017, week after, just started joining all the chambers. As soon as we hit West Des Moines, ended up joining 3 chambers at the time. We're in 5 chambers currently, but just joined every chamber and started going to every networking group we could find. So I just went online and I searched networking groups, Des Moines, networking groups, West Des Moines, all the suburbs, found them all, free groups, paid groups. A lot of times you can visit 3 to 5 times before they make you pay. So I found literally every networking group you could find. And then once you go to those events, you talk to people and, hey, what groups are you going to? By, 2 months into town, my wife and I were going to 5 to 7 networking groups a day, or chamber events per day. And a lot of times we were doing, 5 each. So we just were building all this momentum. And then we started doing, setting up events. So we started getting our build out set up. We just had dirt floors, designed the office. And while that construction is going, we're going to all these networking groups, and we started doing some screenings. And then we set a date for ribbon cutting the Thursday before our office was set to open. So we started marketing that. We ended up having the largest ribbon cutting in West Des Moines history. Over 300 people came to our ribbon cutting. And then by the time we had opened our doors, we already had 400 prepaid appointments before we even open the door.
That's great. So when you were networking, because I would imagine those 300 people were mainly from people that you met, not so much just like strangers from marketing. So what was it that allowed you to connect with those people? Because, you know, whenever I talk to people that like launch fast, they always say the same things. They say networking, and they say spinal screenings. Like the things that these two things, it's like there's so much stuff you can't control in life and, you know, your community or your office or whatever. But the two things that you can control are like your attitude and your effort.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, those are really it. I honestly wanted to do more health talks. We had this crazy scenario where we had a contractor steal a bunch of money from us. We've never gotten it back. We had this kind of crazy situation the last like 6 weeks of our build out. Otherwise, I honestly believe we probably could have got closer to about 600 on the books before we opened. Yeah,
you guys are like, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
I know.
It's like getting 99 people at a spinal screening.
Yeah, pretty disappointing.
So when you were, so I'm sorry, what do you think about when you're networking that allows you to be successful? Because some people network and they're not very successful at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just setting yourself up as a unique proposition, you know, of what you can do and how you can help people, you know, and we really are focused on long-term corrective care. Whereas a lot of people, you know, think of regular chiropractic, you know, make you feel good for a little while. You know, I kind of played to the narrative of like, most people, when they go to a chiropractor, they feel good for a little while and then the problem comes right back. Right. And then they got to keep going for the same problem. And that's what people quickly told me in networking is like, that's why I don't go to a chiropractor. They're just, you know, treating the same problem. I feel good for a little while and then it comes back. And I was like, so I really, you know, kind of played to that narrative like that. We don't want to do that. We do long-term corrective care plans in our office, anywhere from 6 months to 18-month care plans in our office. And that's really our goal, is to get someone at a much higher level of health that they can maintain for a long time. Just use a simple braces analogy that probably everyone heard in chiropractic, you know, is, you know, we want to be like braces. We want to do a more of an intensive initial phase of correction, just to a high level of stability, and then you can just maintain that the rest of your life. And that's really our proposition to people, is we want to do more of an initial intensive corrective care plan, very upfront about that. We want to get you at a high level of health that you can maintain for a long time, rather than just this up and down roller coaster of fad diet and different pills and supplements or things that might make you feel good for a small window of time. We really want to get you to a high level of sustained health that can impact your life for a long time. And that's been our consistent message throughout the whole time. You know, come into our office, we do a very thorough 4 different tests that we do on our first visit in the office. And that's really our proposition. You know, from a selling point is, you know, normally it costs, you know, X amount of dollars. You make an appointment, you know, at this event, we give you a special, get all these tests in the office. Then you get to sit down with a, you know, doctor personally, go through all the findings, recommendations. If you want to proceed, awesome. We'd love to help you. If not, we'll give you a printout of all the assessments, you know, exactly what's going on, you know, and if you want to do something about it in the future, we'd love to help you.
So you were pre-framing, you were like preparing them for, this isn't like a one and done type appointment. And so like those 400 people that prepaid for their appointments, like they kind of understood they were coming in to a different type of place.
Exactly. And like I said, we really take the pressure off on the front end. Is like, we don't want them to think that they're coming in and we're going to upsell them this and that. It's just like, this is what we do. We'd love to help you. But if you don't want to proceed after our initial tests, you don't got to pay any more money. You get to sit down with a doctor, know exactly what's going on. If you want to proceed, like I said, we're going to have a plan laid out individually just for you. If not, we'll literally give you a printout of everything we did that you paid for. Here it is. You know, we'd love to help you in the future. So we've always had that really huge level of transparency with everyone that ever comes into our office. There's nothing that we ever want to hide or pretend, you know, or trapdoor. Oh, you know, now you got to do this or that.
Yeah, trapdoors are never good. So you're doing the spinal screenings, you're doing were you just going around and setting those up in local businesses, at events? Like, I would imagine West Des Moines is similar to Springfield, where my office is, where the event, well, you haven't been in practice that long, but there used to be a lot of events. Now there are not that many events, like that the radio stations would put on and things like that. So where were you doing the spinal screenings at mostly?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, home shows, health expos, farmers markets, different trade shows, RV shows. I mean, any place. Essentially, they set up a booth. And this is what I really always tell everyone from a marketing standpoint. We have such a huge advantage. If you're selling any other product, people might not want a watch, or they might not need a car or a house, or maybe they already have, this or that, but who could not always improve their health? Who could not, whether you're doing great, you want to prevent and be proactive about preventing issues from ever occurring. I mean, it's really the same proposition. Like I said, I think dentists have done a great job of like, you have great teeth, but you better still be brushing them and flossing them every single day, no matter what. Like, we've really just taken that exact same approach of like, no matter where you are at, why would you not be better off with a better functioning nervous system and your body's ability to heal and adapt at a higher level?
Yeah. So once you get up in practice, like the first couple of years, like what's been an average month in terms of new patients?
Yeah. So we've really consistently averaged about 120 new patients for the last year and a half.
And where do those mainly come from?
Yeah, most of them are coming from screenings, health talks, and then now that we've been open, we're getting referrals. We've done Google ads, we've done Facebook ads, we've done other stuff like that, but really the consistent majority has been, what we've been doing from the beginning.
Great. And then when they come in, like what kind of conversion are you having on day one, day two?
Great question. Yeah. So we, as far as our stats go, we usually say we have about a 95% show up rate for the first visit. Depending on where they come from
the spinal screening and health talks, you're getting 95% of those to show up?
Are showing up. Yep. For their first visit. So if they're on the book, took a deposit, about 95% of them are showing up. And then we're typically, next step is we're verifying the insurance, or if they don't have insurance, we're calculating a cost to move forward and charging them for x-rays on that first visit. 90 to 95% of people are taking x-rays. And then, pretty much everyone is showing up for their second visit, probably about 95% show up rate, for the second visit. And then day two sign up rate is probably averaged around 80% since we've opened on a day two sign up basis. Some months, bigger events, we might dip down to 60%. Some good events, we might go up to 90%.
So when you do your spinal screenings, what are you doing at the booth? Are you doing EMG? Are you doing thermal?
Yep, we do bring out the thermal insight and run the sample screening of the nerves of their neck, have them fill out a brief health survey, and then we ask a really golden question: if all these problems are gone tomorrow, how would your life be better? And they tell us what that answer is, and that's what we tell them. We'd love to help them achieve that goal. This is our special: come to the office, get a full neurological evaluation, muscle assessment, spinal examination, sit down with the doctor to go over those findings. Normally you walking off the streets, it's $100. We give it today for $40.
So they do the $40 deposit. What's been the biggest? Because a lot of people that do spinal screenings aren't anywhere near 95% show up rate. What's been the trick there?
Yeah, we were probably used to be closer to 80 to 85% when we were at $20. So bumping up to $40 has really upped it. If you're hurting for new ones, I don't think it's bad to keep it at 20, because you have maybe a lot of open slots, and if people don't show up, you're still getting maybe more people overall. But we were tapping out of capacity. We got up to a point where we were like 6-7 weeks out consistently just for new patient appointments. So we really had a necessity to make sure those slots, if they were full, people were showing up. But as far as a follow-up process, obviously it's just conveying the value at the event, them putting the money down at the event, so they got skin in the game. And then we send them a text message reminder 2 days out. We give them a call reminder 1 day out. And then we do also another text reminder 1 hour prior to the appointment, in addition to emailing them with the paperwork ahead of time. So, you're looking at about 4 maybe even 5 reminders before that first appointment.
Nice. All right. So you get launched, you're crushing it. When did you add your first associate?
First associate started when we were at 6 months open. We were at about 500 a week.
And you were seeing 500 a week. How many do you see now? Like you
A
personally?
little over 1,000. As far as
just you.
Just me? Oh, I'm only adjusting right now about 10 to 15% of the practice right now. So I'm adjusting maybe 150 people a week.
I've never been prouder of you than right now, Josiah. So you've got, you said you just got your third associate this week, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what's been the biggest challenge with adding staff? Because you're obviously a special dude. Maybe if an associate comes in, they don't have everything that you've had along the way. How have you been able to transfer that that expertise to them?
Yeah, really good question. We do team meetings every Monday, all team meetings. We really get on the same page on a lot of topics. And then Tuesdays, we don't open till 3:00, but the staff comes in at 11:30. We do a one-on-one meeting with every single staff member every single week. And that's really been a game changer from a communication standpoint. And then we also do team training, for the rest of that time every single Tuesday. So that's where we really, get ahead on training topics. And then we also have goals laid out. So every single week, when they get hired, they've 30-day, they're broken down in 30-day increments, 30-day, 60-day, 90-day goals broken down per week, specific topics that we want them to train out of and then test out of with myself or my wife on the topics. Team members, each position has their own, depending on what position we hire them for. And then doctors have the same thing. And then so we're able to onboard them and systematically train them up on the same system procedures that, I myself did. At the beginning, it was mostly up in my head, so it's been, as every doctor we've hired, every team member we've hired, we've tried to get it out of my head, out of Megan's head, onto paper. And that's definitely been a process, but right now we have a really big, manual for doctors and staff.
Nice. That sounds different than the first associate I hired. I talked to him for about 30 minutes and said, this is what I do. And, good luck. And then, and it is, we are still together 10 years from now or 10 years later, but, we definitely didn't have things in place the way that you have them. So that's great. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? And now that you've grown to this size, we were talking before we hopped on here that size of the space is starting to become an issue. What's the next step look like?
Yeah, I've really identified, just like I said, still only 2 years open, definitely have a ton to learn, but I just realized the most finite resource on earth is amazing people. And so that is really, I think the step for any business to go to the next level is to attract and retain incredible team members. And so we have some amazing doctors, incredible staff currently, and we're very, very picky about who we let into our culture. And so that is definitely, I think, the number one thing to, scale, sustain what you've done and continually going, being able to delegate to people that you are very confident and comfortable with, handing off systems, procedures, and tasks to that can really continue to elevate. So that's been our biggest thing. Now we're working with multiple staffing companies, recruiting companies. I got to set up a bonus system. If my staff finds someone that we hire, they're going to get bonused. I got everyone that I can think of, headhunting for our office to really find the most unique, talented people that fit our culture. And I really, really, in my heart of hearts, think that's the number one step that businesses really, need to really continually to elevate.
Well, I mean, if you're, if we start getting this story out of what you're doing right now, I think you'll have people beating down your door to learn how you did it. And then some of them will stay, some of them will go do it on their own, but it's pretty impressive. So let's say that there's somebody that, let's say they started the exact same time you did, and they've been able to work their way up to 50 or 60 visits a week. What do you say? Because you just started out of the gates on fire, right? And so like all the things that we talked about that made you successful, but like if you're 2.5 years in and you're still at 50 a week, you're missing something in there, because it's possible. It turns out it's possible to get to 1,200 a week in 2.5 years. So there's a big delta between 50 a week and 1,200 a week. What would you suggest to somebody that's just kind of bumping along and they're just frustrated because they're not growing the way that they think they should be?
Yeah, I mean, it's just more gas in the gas tank. I mean, really, which is marketing. You know, I mean, that's the fuel for everything, every business. And I think that's the hardest thing maybe that some doctors don't realize, is just because, you know, you didn't go to school to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I didn't, you know, learn that in school. You know, I had to go to offices, you know, try and learn from other people. But I really comes down to, you know, generating more new people, you know, and then obviously retaining them. And, you know, if you're on the numbers on our stats, I mean, that's probably the best number one thing we can improve on is retention. We're seeing a lot of number of people. Obviously we see, you know, a lot of new patients, a lot of people, but there's still people going out the back door that aren't retaining. They sign up for a little while and we haven't done enough, you know, education to help retain them. And so that's probably the number one thing I want to work on. But at that level, if you're, you know, at that number still, I mean, it's got to be increasing, you know, the number of people coming in through the door, you know, the number of opportunities that you have. I mean, from that standpoint, like I said, I mean, you got to get out there. I mean, you either got to do it yourself or you got to find someone, you know, a marketing person for you to do it. So I hired my first full-time marketing team member at 6 months. And so, you know, ever since then, she's been doing great. We have multiple part-time marketing people as well that are supporting her with all the marketing efforts that we do. But I mean, we really just relied on grassroots, you know, marketing strategies, getting out there, getting in front of people, you know, telling them the chiropractic story, what we do, and, you know, bring them into our office, and then, you know, value proposition, this is what we can do for you. If you want to do it, we'd love to help you. If not, you know, best of luck. We wish you the best. But I think it's just really generating those more people in the office. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the number one thing that will solve most problems.
I also, as a marketer, I also agree. But I also think that you're right. If you can get 120 new patients, but if you can't convert them and you can't retain them, you're in trouble. So the other thing that I hear that is very important to your success has been your wife, and having a very successful integrator, especially if you're a visionary. And I think that until somebody experiences a great integrator, that they don't realize how much they help. So you sound like you had a very good strategy as you were recruiting your integrator in high school in preparation for your chiropractic career. So that was really smart. But for those of us that did not, kind of like explain like how much your wife has to do with the success of the practice and frees you up to do what you were meant to do.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely everything. I mean, I think the biggest thing I think people need to realize is they don't have to do everything, and they don't need to hire staff that has to do everything. Because that's what I really realized is like a lot of those offices I felt like plateaued is they tried to be the integrator and the visionary and the front desk person. And they tried to hire a team member who was great at greeting people, very outgoing, but could also do their billing and be detail oriented. And we really quickly realized, like, if that's not your strength, like, let's not keep you in that role any longer than out of pure necessity. And so, yeah, like my wife has absolutely been, you know, amazing on systems, procedures, details, you know, fine tuning the processes that we do. And that's literally the point of our meeting every single Monday with our staff, an hour and a half meeting every single Monday. And we're literally, you know, trying to nitpick everything that we could improve on the office on a weekly basis and try and making them better. You know, if you are the visionary, yeah, you need to find somebody that has those detail-oriented systems and procedures. You know, a really simple way to scan people ahead of time is use an assessment on the front end from a hiring standpoint. We use the disc profile. And then for doctors, we use the Pro Scan. We use Chiro Matchmakers. Those guys have been great from a doctor hiring standpoint. But we use assessment tools on the front end to figure out what their roles and their strengths are. And my wife is very, very systems-oriented, detail-oriented. I am not. And so being very comfortable knowing that is not a strength of mine, knowing that is a strength of her, and positioning ourselves in those roles. Maybe you are the detail-oriented, systems doctor, and you need to have, someone who's a little more visionary, marketing, sales type of person. So I think realizing your own strengths and then figuring out, people that you can onboard and bring on and invest in people, to fill those other, holes that you might not have.
Yeah. How much do you love the Pro Scan? Is that I think that's the best.
Yeah, it's really creepy, to be honest with you.
It is. Like, those are the weirdest, they're the dumbest questions that you have to answer, but then they give you the report. You're just like, oh, how did you know that?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I love that one. I'm trying to think if we've covered a lot here. You've given a ton of great value. And I think that, just knowing that you exist is half the battle for a lot of these guys. When I talk to them, when I talk to new doctors, they have a very realistic idea of what their growth plan should be. Like, in 12 months, I want to be at $10,000 a month. And then in 24 months, I want to be at $20,000 a month. And, I want to keep half of it. And da, da, da. And it's like, it's all very realistic, like, for sure. But I'm like, or you could, like, shoot for the moon. And, like, but I just, like, when I was coming out of school, I didn't know that people like you existed. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to do as much as I can. So I think it's important for doctors to see, because a lot of the coaching groups that are out there, the doctors may not be in practice like the head guy, or they may have never even reached that level, or they're in practice, but they're kind of like half in practice, half coaching. And so sometimes, like, that's why I was so excited to interview you, because I'm just like, man, like, you don't have a coaching program, and it's just like you crushing it in small town Iowa, and it's good to know that exists. Regardless of what stage you are in your career, it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. That wasn't really a question, but yeah, sorry. All right, man. Well, I'm super pumped that you joined UAC, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you more. You don't really have anywhere for anybody to find out more information about you, but if you want to see how chiropractic offices are supposed to launch, make your way to West Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the last piece of advice I would really give is that I think when you get to that level, when you start getting better and better, people talk about a lot is you start getting these shiny object syndrome of where do you want to start investing, or you want to do these other things or bring in the new things once you start being any success level at all. And I would really, plead people to keep doing what you've already been doing that's successful. You would have no idea how many doctors I've talked to that are 20, 30 years in practice, and they're like, oh yeah, I used to do screenings. They were like super awesome. But then, I didn't want to do them anymore. So I stopped doing them, and then I never replaced myself. Like, that's the number one thing, probably. I think that so many people help start them up well, and then they don't replace themselves. They don't hire a marketing team to keep doing those things for them. So then, those things just stop. And then they maybe get some level of success, like you said, and then they just want to take all that money for themselves and go get a car or a boat. Or I know that's something Gary Vee, talked about with your first interview with him, is saying, like, you take all this money, you want to go do all these things with it. It's like, man, put that back in the business. We've left like every penny possible in our business, and we've reinvested it back into marketing. We've reinvested back into staff, hiring people, recruiting people, staffing people. I mean, that's the greatest ROI possible, is your business and people. And those by far away are going to blow out any stock market, mutual fund, 8 to 10% return, real estate, whatever, thing you can look into. I mean, a practice should be generating 40 to 60%, ROI from an overhead to income standpoint. And, staff members, the amount you pay staff to the quality of ROI that you get out of a great staff member is just, uncountable. So that's, marketing, great staff, reinvest in the business are, I think the top, really keys to success. And then, start recruiting your integrator from high school.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you got to get the time machine, go back in high school, fall in love, then you're ready. I do love, though, that was what I was trying to think of, like, that I wanted to mention was the thing I like about you is, like, you could have stopped at 500 and been in the top 1% of the 1% of chiropractic, but it's like, it seems like you're just always trying to level up. You're always trying to do it bigger and better and more efficiently, and, grow the team. So I think a lot of people tend to get a little bit complacent. And what would you say your 5-year vision is? Where do you want the practice to be?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to my wife about that. Right now, our goal is 3,000 a week. That's our goal. That's our goal right now. So
in one practice,
I think we could hit that in about 3 more years. That's kind of my goal right now. Right now, we're looking at one more practice. I've talked to a lot of doctors, multiple offices, bigger location. Next move is a bigger single location. But that's something, like I said, I'm learning so much at this point. You can never stop learning, and no matter where you get, I just never want to plateau. And for me, being an athlete, and if anybody was athletes or they have competitive at all, business is the ultimate sport, in my opinion. And it's like, you can always go to the next level. You always compete with yourself. And you get the right team players around you, right team members, just like any great team. Really the sky's the limit when you do it the right way. Well,
I'm a betting man. And if I had to bet on the over-under of you reaching 3,000 in 3 years, I'm going to take the under. So I think if anybody can do it, you can, man. Hey, I appreciate you being on. This was a ton of great value for all the doctors, but especially those ones just getting started. So I appreciate your time. And guys, we will talk to you on the next episode.
Just because this episode is over doesn't mean you can't continue your path to $1 million practice. We've created chiropractic's most full-service marketing agency at Leverage Media to help you reach $1 million a year fast and continue to grow. You can get a free strategy session with me absolutely free right now. To get started, go to getmemorenewpatients.com. Once again, go to getmemorenewpatients.com, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Path to $1 Million podcast.